Hello and welcome to Connections Forum for Relationship Expression and Healing. This is episode number 71. And the topic is dream it, create it, live it. And we're going to have our special guest, Phillip Lopez of One Great Life. We're going to explain that a little bit later. First, about Connections Forum. It offers singles, episodes, and short series of talks and interviews regarding the most important areas in human life, such as relationship issues, personal expression, and self-development, and as well healing of these areas. The purpose of our shows is to give you inspiration and also teach you new skills with which to handle the issues which are connected with our topics. You can watch all replays on our website, Hangout on connection.com. I am Margherita Crystal Lotus, an intuitive life and business mentor, healer, author, creative artist, and consciousness explorer from Sweden, which is my home country. I have stressed that overwhelmed professional women overcome emotional turmoil and recover their authentic self. And I do this work via online programs at my place called Enchantment, a private healing retreat I created here in Kingston, Ontario. And that's it. My website is thecrystallotus.com. And Heidi, I put it over to you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Heidi Hornlein, or Adelheid Hörnlein. I'm German, living in Italy in a wonderful place, which is also a retreat and a guest house and a cultural association. It's called Paradiso Integrale. So when you come to Italy, near Rome, please come and see us. I'm a transformational coach. I'm a voice coach, voice teacher. I was that for 20 years, also a classical opera singer, and I should sing a song to these mosques here to keep them away. And I am a Hangout host, as you see, together with Margherita in Connections Forum and with my husband, Mark Davenport, in the Wisdom Factory, where we explore, let's say, integral topics. And if you don't know what integral means, no worries, come and watch us, and then you will see. I don't think I have to add anything except our website. The common website is thepowerofrelationship.com and thewisdomfactory.de, where you can find the information about the show and also download a free gift for you. Yeah, and so I want to go over to our special guest, we don't speak well English. Margherita is good, I'm sort of good, but we have a little bit of a problem. And when I say that, I present Phillip Lopez now, but you know, I didn't know that it was his name. I saw O-N-A-G-R 8 and then life. And I never understood that means one great life, because when you are in your native language, you always will talk the numbers in your own language. In my language, it would be 1-8 life. Doesn't mean anything. And only lately I understood what that means. And I saw Phillip, One Great Life, with this wonderful icon. I'm sure you know it. Black and white and really good. I saw him appear, I didn't even know if it was a him or her, in many shows and leaving good comments there, and he entered into my awareness for quite a while. And so one day I decided to ask him if he wants to talk with me on a hangout, and he said yes. And he said he is Phil and is living in California, and he is now here with his face showing who he is behind the icon. So welcome, Phillip.
Thank you very much to both of you. And Heidi, I appreciate very much that you would reach out and give me this opportunity to address your guests.
I think many people will be curious to see who is behind the icon, because you never know. As I said, I didn't even know if you were a woman or a man, and now I understood that you are a man.
Oftentimes it is quite shocking that that you would find such maybe sensitive responses or heartfelt responses coming from a male. The intent was never to trick anybody, but just to be myself. And again, the icon is a Japanese figure, a Japanese Buddhist figure. There are many interpretations of what the symbol is. I just happened to found it, and it kind of just resonated with me. I find it very peaceful. And I'm just happy to be here.
Wonderful. So the idea of this show is to make you known and your message known to the Hangout community, where you are very well known in form of your comments. So what shall we ask him first, Margherita?
Okay, I can jump in here. I think that we're going to ask him, how did you, Phillip, start out on Google Plus? What made you become an entity or a person on Google Plus?
I first ran into Google Plus when Google Plus was just a beta development, and you actually needed to know somebody who was had been approved by Google, and they had to sponsor you to create your Google Plus space. So that was 2 or 3 years ago. When I got there, it was in its infancy. It didn't seem to have as much traction as Twitter or Facebook or and LinkedIn or some of the other social media platforms. And so I kind of backed away, and I thought, well, maybe I could sort of let it grow up a little bit, remain present. I had still some transitions to make and redefinements in my message, and so it was actually very fortunate that they were infant and I was an infant, and both of us could grow up. And then only recently, with the release and the greater acceptance of Hangouts, did my message sort of mature enough to where I felt that it was worthy of presenting it in the Google Plus format.
Yeah, this is a great connection tool, isn't it? We got to know so many people by seeing them on screen and connecting with them, and really.
There are great minds here, and you two are a perfect example of that. Your educational background is superior, and the fact that you would allow yourself to simplify in order to reach out to people is a great compliment to both of you.
So what I'm so very interested in, when we talked privately, you told me that you have a background as an engineer. And this is extremely interesting to me, because I told you before, I find that so many people, especially male people, are still in this mindset that do masculine jobs, like being an engineer, and creating stuff all the time and being perfect. I mean, technology, it's mainly born in the minds of men, and it's good, but it's very seldom that a person, a man who has grown up in this part, in the outside construction part of the world, goes over into the internal part about feelings, about development, and so on. So how does it fit for you? How did you close the gap between these two parts of you?
I always try to remind myself that I'm the perfect blend of my mother and my father. My mother is one of the most compassionate people that I have in my life, and fortunately she still remains there as in physical life. My father was hard-driven, sort of the Gestalt type, right? Very focused, almost obsessive. Now my wife will call me obsessive, but I will disagree with her. And it was in my university days that I ran into a college professor. He sort of befriended me, and we were walking across campus one day, and he asked me, it was towards the end of my time on college campus, and he asked me, so what are you going to do when you get out? And I says, oh, I'm going to go to work. And he says, so I told him about all of these, I'm going to develop products, and I'm going to lead engineering teams, and we're going to do great things. And he says, Phil, basically what you're describing is survival. And life is so much more than just surviving. You have the opportunity to create a great life if you will take the responsibility to design that. And so a couple conversations, I says, well, how do you do this? He says, in order to do that, you will have to have a purpose and a mission, and you will need to advance that purpose and mission into others. And so we see this as a management technique and style today. I was in college 30 years ago, so this sort of led me on the path that said if I was going to achieve what we would normally call success, that I would have to take a lot of people with me. And so my passion became, how do I develop and expose others to their fullest potential, and how do I teach them to release that? And that began the journey.
So thank you to your professor who has understood your potential and led you into this way. That's really great.
You know, I count that as a huge blessing. You know, there are a lot of things that occur in life that we just don't simply understand, and it takes years for them to sort of mature and blossom. I have a little garden in the backyard, and I planted these seeds months ago, and I keep thinking, when are they going to flower? And only yesterday did my wife take me out there, and she goes, look, here's your first flower. And so it's 60, 75 days, and you know, all I see is green things, and now all of a sudden through the rest of the summer I'll begin to enjoy the flowery beauty.
So we all are working towards the flourishing of ourselves, waiting for the final flower to appear.
That's exactly right. And so this flowering is not a destination. It's simply a journey. And the journey is bookended. Our human journey is bookended between birth and death. And each one of us has greatness within us. And the objective is to find that thing that drives you to release your greatest potential. And that potential isn't just a physical energy or mental energy. That you have to add the woo-woo, you have to add the spiritual energy in order to create balance. That, you know, for so long we use the term life balance, and we think of a playground teeter-totter, where I'm going to get a little engineering here, where you have a single fulcrum and you try to balance on that fulcrum, and this is almost impossible to do. That life balance is essentially a tripod. You rarely see a tripod tip over. The legs are adjustable. Tripods love terrain. They will withstand almost any soil content, rock, sand, mud, and the three legs of your tripod are always the energy which connect us, and those are our mental energy, our physical energy, and our spiritual energy. And if you connect to those three things, purpose unveils itself.
Can I interject a question here or a suggestion? We
Yes.
talked about woo-woo, right? And I have a definition of woo-woo. Woo-woo is to realize the wonderful world around us.
I like that.
So let's do woo-woo from now on.
Okay.
Yeah. So how did you realize this for yourself? And as you were in the work world with people who don't want woo-woo, maybe the one you have given the definition, Margherita, but the other is too suspect, you know, people making yoga and energy and think about positive things and thoughts and all this stuff. So there are normally very much objections. And some of them are even right, you know, it depends. So how did you live in that world, and how were you seen, and how did you manage to go your own way?
Part of it is exactly as you just mentioned, is in order, I think one of the greater callings for all of us is this component of differentiating ourselves by the color of our hair, the style of our hair, the clothes we wear, the higher material things, of course, how high up on the hill you live, the car you drive, the shoes you wear, the purse you carry. And on the scientific side, the scientists are right. And if they would only, I guess, sort of stop to realize that those things that they study are simply components of energy, you could take that concept and go, so what are the energies of life? So from my perspective, it was the underlying question has always been how. If you're given this life, how do you design, or can you design, what are the design components to create a great life? And that has been my obsession for the last 20 or 30 years, is constantly trying to listen. The further and deeper I listen, the more I recognize that we can buy all sorts of things. I think that the greatest difference between this message and so many other messages, this is not a message of attainment. This is not a message of the things that you are able to touch or to buy in life. This is a message about the things that you obtain, and the primary difference is attainment is to touch, obtainment is to hold. So oftentimes I think that in the world,
Don't I hear him anymore, Margherita?
No, I don't hear.
Oh, he's disappeared. Oh. Hopefully he comes back in. He's not even gone. Let me send him a message.
I'm sending it.
He is not on anymore. I thought it's me that I don't get him anymore.
Well, it's a good idea when we're not hearing something and the connection is broken, right? And when another person is cut off, it's like that with the intuitive stuff too. That if we're trying to listen, or if we only listen to ourselves, we have to also listen to the other people to come in. And scientists, which I am a family of academics. My father was a doctor and my mother was a biochemist, but they were also both of them artists. So when we listen to my parents, I have several siblings too, and they taught us about, you draw, you paint, you are creative, and then the other son is about the science of it, find out how it works. So it was never some kind of judgment or doctrine that you had to follow. You had to find it out for yourself, and I'm so grateful for my parents for doing that, because otherwise, when you're not open to see the new things, you cannot possibly create an outside opportunity like dreaming or creating something that you don't know. But you can open yourself and actually receive it. What do you think about that, Heidi?
It's okay. I totally agree. I was still thinking another thought before, which I want to bring on, as we were talking about woo-woo against science, and we were talking about how does it gets it together. I was thinking the universe wants to say, oh, don't tell other men, or maybe do. No, I'm a little bit in woo-woo now, in real woo-woo, to think that might have significance that he is being cut out of the show exactly in the moment when he is talking about how he gets the balance into the life and goes out of the mainstream male scientific blah blah and integrates the other parts of his life.
Well, it's very important because on some level I also have some fear about what if the authorities going to nail me and have me explain what I am doing as a healer. You can't explain it. You could just show results, right? And here we have him back. Are you back?
Oh, good.
I'm back. You know, if it isn't Google Plus, it's the Windows blue screen of death. I apologize to all of you.
It can happen.
But you are an engineer after all. You actually managed to overcome the blue death screen of life, and that's a sign of a good engineer, I have to tell you.
You know what the thing is to not panic.
That's what we learned. It's part of the other learning on the emotional side, no? Which you cannot explain with learning physical whatever chemical statements. You really have to go into the interior and learn how to do that, how to keep a state of mind which doesn't block you. And we have passed that, Margherita, haven't we?
Yay.
It's funny that you say that, because the first thought that entered my mind was, I place my trust in you. And not only is this an affirmation internally to myself, but an affirmation to the external, right? That whatever's going on, you're going to get me through this, and it'll happen seamlessly. And within a matter of moments, you can recover from so many things if you simply have sort of a go-to affirmation.
Yeah. The thing is, we don't know how much you told us without us hearing it. So I think you need to sort of begin again. We have in the audience also Bill Reed. He has come, and Roy Schneidberger, and who else is there? Rain, probably? I don't know. There is at least somebody else there. Not showing up in the comment screen. Please.
Ron Schneidberger, I think he was here.
Yes.
And
Lopez, you are welcome to leave your comments and ask questions to Phil.
Yes, please, don't hesitate. I think where I left off was the primary difference in the tone of the message, and I think that the age of overindulgence has sort of left us. And so now we're, as humans, in our passage of time is, what's next? We've all had the opportunity to live in great financial abundance, certainly through the 80s, and but things change, not only in the States but globally. The euro struggles, great national economy struggle. There's developing countries in the East and through Africa and South America, and so there's a shift that occurs. And I think Heidi, you mentioned this in part of the introduction to the show, is that there's so many things that are going on. We come back to this how. And so if life is more than simply attaining and touching many things, the other side of that is obtainment, which is to hold. And each one of us, I don't know what happens at birth, I don't know what happens when we cut the umbilical cord, suddenly we're left on our own. There must be some transfer of information to create our own external soul and spirit, and then the journey begins. And how do we transform and release that energy back into the world, which is our greatest potential, our highest potential, is to capture that purpose and to deliver it. You don't want to leave the planet without being able to do that. And so the tone of the message is one of obtainment. And the difference there is that we hold everything within us already to release our greatest potential. And then the question becomes, how do you do that?
Exactly. That was what I wanted to ask. Do you have practices which you did yourself and which you could describe a little bit and give some advice to people how they could do that? If they
So I don't know if either two or any in the audience are familiar with the movie Back to the Future, where the mad scientist comes, where he knocks his head, and he envisions the flux capacitor, and this is sort of the storyline. Well, the one life model is sort of the same way. It's pieces and of the puzzle that come to me, and I'm finally able to arrange them in a real life sequence. And so it begins simply with ambition. That ambition comes to us in the form of a notion, idea, or thought, and we then have the opportunity to begin acting on that ambition. So if you hold something within you that you feel you need to release, that ambition is your first step to grow that idea and to begin to transform it from that idea into its physical equivalence. The first step I ran into was this sort of what I call uncover, and this is where, in order to transform this sort of vaporous idea or notion into its physical equivalence, you must understand what that notion is calling you to become, because each of us are in a constant state of becoming. So I developed this little exercise that listed 234 words, and it's a selection the process. And the bottom line is, in order to release this potential, I'm called to become. And so you pick 6 words, and these become sort of your go-to guides that carry you in the times of uncertainty. They carry you in your times of greatest frustration. They carry you through the moments of distraction that you have the comfort of go-to guides. And so personally, I carry these with me every place I go. Self-discipline, self-control, gratitude, courage, intentional presence, and clarity of thought. If I can maintain those six things, I know that the One Great Life message will release itself in its highest potential. So I actually used this with a sales team at one point in time, where they were the 87th ranked out of 100. I kind of inherited this team. It was a traditional, I don't want to say high pressure, slimy sales environment, but sales is hard. It's not the easiest thing to do. There are always quotas and volumes to reach, and so there's a lot of pressure in that regard. That pressure can kind of wear you down individually. So with this group, I thought I would take a very different approach, and I would try to help them liberate themselves internally as a function of increasing their sales potential. And so we ran through this exercise, and through the course of their day, they had a little place card with their 6 guiding virtues on it. And anytime they ran into difficulty on the phone or difficulty in a presentation, they would just simply have to focus on one of those 6 words, and one of those 6 words would carry them to find and release the right words or the right correct presentation. And so that team grew from 87 to a top 12 position in less than 6 months. And of course, that was probably one of the bigger points that allowed me to recognize that I was kind of on to something.
So do you do that regularly, that you go to the business world and teach them another way of being?
The growing, so One Great Life is the umbrella. The first platform to come from that umbrella will be what I've labeled as creating phenomenal. And the creating phenomenal is that link, as you spoke of, is to take real life people, CEOs or entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and help them get through the struggles and the distractions that are inherent in the thing that they're trying to do. Not only are they trying to release a product or a service, but they also have to be able to maintain the balance on the inside. So with my venture capital friends, I always ask, so which is the greater risk? Is the greater risk the release of hundreds of thousands of dollars, which you can manage financially, due diligence, understand the analytics and financials, or is the greater risk the person that you have lent the money to? My argument is the greater risk is the person, because you have nothing which would allow you to do due diligence on the individual, and it is that individual, it is the people that you're trying to build your relationship with. Early on, one of the arguments I had with my father was, as I moved into management positions, was, son, why do you constantly want to endure all these people problems? And it took me a while to kind of come up with, a crafty son answer for, your father. And so I said, Dad, you have to look around. And if you notice, people do all the work around here. What other kind of problem is there going to be?
Exactly. That depends so much on the people, their productivity and their way of doing, how they feel. If they don't feel acknowledged, if they feel in so many enterprises, that's the case when they are led in a way that they feel like nothing and not appreciated and not able to give their greatest gift. How can the enterprise flourish?
I agree with you completely, Heidi. That is this is the last frontier, so to speak. That as a humankind, we've conquered so many things in our evolution, that it seems that the last thing to sort of conquer is how do we bridge those things that we aspire for physically, those things that we aspire for mentally. How do we build a bridge? And I can only think that it is that spiritual connection that transcends dogma or creed to just a higher purpose for each of us to create relationships that of empowerment.
Yeah, absolutely.
It reminds me. Excuse me.
Go ahead.
It reminds me of there is one source, right? And then if you have a circle, you have surrounding that one source. So if you come from the same place, like whatever you call that one source, but if we're not communicating with the people there is nothing. There is no life. If we don't have another person to share with or the nature around us, where would we be?
That is exactly it. There are, I think in my latest blog post, we're sort of in that phase where we're drilling down to that core, and you recognize that the release of your greatest potential is not, that there's nobody, this is not external work, and you have to begin to realize that this is an opportunity and a responsibility that each of us have to share our greatest potential, to work past the limitations of to grow in courage, to grow in clarity of thought, to grow in ambition, to grow, and again, you can go to the list of 234 words, find the words that most appeal to you. I think in this exercise, I even created a wild card space, because these are difficult choices. So you start with 234 words, you whittle it down to 12, and then the 12 you take it down to 10, and to the 10 you take down to 6. So there are some very tough choices, as is with all of life. That you can't be everything to everybody. That you have a fixed period of time to work with. None of us know when that clock runs out, and so it's basically a race against time. So my thought is, you could do as I did and spend 30 years of your life trying to figure it all out, or you can take advantage of the great resources that are available to you through Google+, through other social media, and find a message that resonates with you, and just step on the gas and just go.
You know, what I'm thinking about is that in times like now, we have them now, this is for the first time possible to do. In the past, let's say even after the war times and so on, that we were so much concentrated of creating an outside world of survival, of you know, just making things happen. And now so many of us have reached a certain state of, or let's say stage of financial, let's say, freedom. Even if we don't earn a lot, but we still can survive without having to work from the morning to the evening, like it was for thousands of generations, you know. Now we can finally think about these things, think clearly about these things, and dedicate our time of these things. For me, what is now on for humanity is really to integrate the emotional part, first of all, and the spiritual part. Because for me, it's a little bit a trick that we want to go into spirituality and go away. But we first have to get grounded in ourselves and really connect all our parts as a human being. And then spiritual life is okay, no? It's parallel, but don't bypass it. So what you are doing, I think it's very great, and you are one of the pioneers. And I think future generations don't have to work 30 years anymore, because you and other people have provided the basis for that. So it will be accelerated, as everything does. No? When something is new, a new age is coming on, it is sort of heavy, clumsy, and it has first to be really developed and so on. And the next generation, for them, it's already laid down as a carpet. They will have other things to explore, and the next generation, and so on and so on. So wonderful. I feel myself like you, in the same position, like a pioneer. And Mark says always, the pioneers you recognize as having the arrows in the back. Because many people don't agree. At the beginning, you are sort of alone, really alone, until you find your like-minded people. And thankfully, we find them here on this platform.
I agree with you. There are some brilliant minds on Google+, far greater minds than we could possibly ever uncover them all.
And that we never would have met before, because how could we? And now here on this platform, the world has become so small that we can find these people. Before, it was maybe by chance in some conference or something you knew one of them, but now here you have the possibility to know many of them, and this is thanks to the mental scientific mind who has created this, the masculine, I would say, the masculine energy who has created our...
Yes, we bow to you, we bow to you.
But we are very happy that the masculine mind slowly is opening towards the feminine, which is more in connections, more in what you said before, in listening. In listening, what is next. This is more feminine way of being in the world, and not in doing all the time. Although we are doing a lot, don't we, Margherita?
Yeah, we are. I mean, I think we develop each part of us, and at this time, it's like the male and the female, and then it's in the woman, many women these days, but also many men have actually opening up their feminine side, and females have opened up to the male side for a number of years now and suffered from it, because they think that they are supposed to behave like men, which is not true.
That's very much so. That there are very distinctive differences between the genders, and it is these differences that create our greatest, I guess, our greatest diversities. That, as I opened up earlier, I've always thought that I was the perfect blend of my mother and my father. That I know that my compassion and my creativity are things that I inherited, from the nurturing that my mother has always and continues to give me. And so I only have to look at the great women in my life, my wife, my mother, my sister-in-laws, and recognize that the things that they do to create the balance in my great life are the things that are so much more different than me. And if you really just sort of take the time and begin to listen, not just to the words, but to what is the motivation behind the words, that you really begin to uncover a tremendous amount of greater understanding, and to apply those things in your working world is phenomenal. That you're trying to drive performance from your staff and from your project teams, or your platform development team, and seemingly the easiest way to do that is to find out what it is that they need and help them by delivering that to them. And in that way, they return back to you the things that you need. And it's a very harmonious relationship.
And this will shape the outcome. These are new times where we don't order the people anymore. You have to do that, and
this is funny that you bring that up, because one of the things that I realized along in my personal development is that yes, I could drive results by being the screaming monster and from the position of adversity and explosion. That certain people would react to that, and you could drive results and performance that way. Or you could be that individual who constantly carried the big stick and was swinging it uncautiously, right, knocking down everything out of my way. I'm going to get to the top. And then I sort of finally realized that after a while, the people that you're trying to help the most, they become insensitive to the screaming voice and the undesirable working environment, or they just lay on the carpet one day and just let you run them over or beat them with the stick. Your greatest fear is that one day they don't grab the stick from you and then they beat you back. And,
absolutely.
And those were some pretty tough life lessons, because there were a couple of beatings along the way.
This is a wisdom, psychological wisdom. You never want to do people things against their will, to force people things against their own will, because it will come back to you. In some way there will be a result. And in relationships, it's like that. In close relationships, if you force your partner to do something because you want it, and the other one, you don't respect the other one, and you force him or her to do things for you, once okay, twice okay, after 100 times the other one will explode and the relationship ends. And then I saw it with men so often, also in my life. What do you want? What is it? I don't understand what you want, because all the signs in between they didn't get on one side, they didn't get, and we didn't speak up. I mean, I talk about myself, but I see it in other women too. Didn't speak up in the right time. So don't allow anybody to make you do what you don't want to do. On the other hand, don't drive other people to do something for you which they don't want to do. It will not a good outcome.
Yeah, eventually those relationships they don't last. I mean, a product of a divorce marriage, myself, my mother and my father separated when I was just entering college. Of course, in my selfish thought, I thought, well, who's going to pay for this? So somehow I worked through that. and, but you never want to be a doormat. That people just, walk all over you. And so I think this is where we come back to the first step of realizing that either you want to change something, whether it be a relationship or the outcome of some product or service, is to understand who are you being called to become in order to transform this idea into its physical equivalence. And if 6 words get you there, then I really stumbled upon something great. But it is your great life. You have to be willing to come from a position that I can be, I can do, I can give anything that I desire. And I think this is what we see in your work through the power of relationships. We see this through the work that Margherita does with her healing. I see this in the video clips that where we have endorsement for both of you. These are beautiful and powerful things where you can get people to open up and share with you, their internal emotion that says, I attended this thing, I participated in this thing, and this is what I drew out of it. And you just see this transformation in their face. And so if you sort of stop and look and listen, and you see those videos of endorsement, they're extraordinarily powerful, and it just tells me that you two are coming from exactly the right place that you need to be coming from.
Wow.
Thank you so much. So
I think we're coming to the last of the final minutes. What's your takeaway here? Heidi, would you start?
Let me first ask him what he is offering, where people can connect with him, if he is guiding something, if you're doing courses. We never talked about that, so would you like to?
The coursework is coming, so I sit on 5 or 6 different EPUBs here that I really need to, I guess, sort of persuade my social habit, my social desires, to take a back seat for a while so that I can get those works out and published. If there's anything that I can ever do to help any of you, you can always reach me through the website. There's a connect with us icon there. You can do that. You can look me up on Google+. My email is there. I believe my cell phone number is there. I'm here to to just provide a little guidance and a little bit of instruction. And I think that in the end, if I go back to an early experience in my life, there was a young girl, and I was in probably 11 or 12 years old. There was this young girl that every place I went, she seemed to just appear. And I'm extroverted to a point, but I'm basically introverted. So this introverted nature would never allow me to go to her and say hi. It never allowed me the opportunity to, look at her and smile. And one summer, she was killed. And this was at a very young age. And it bothered me deeply that I would never have the opportunity again to say hello. I would never have the opportunity again to smile at her, that forever she was gone. And so this really drives me personally, even to today, that I love connections. I'm just here to provide a little instruction and a little bit of guidance. And if you need any of those two things, if you find yourself in the middle of a transition, a lot of people ask, who does your message appeal to? And to me, it appeals to people who are in transition. And it's meant to be not a handout. It's just simply meant to be, a helping hand. And if it resonates with you, look me up, send me an email. Of course, now we'll be flooded, but that's okay. We'll handle that when it happens. I have to really thank you, too, and I appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you. So now I tell you my takeaway. My takeaway is follow your intuition. I followed mine and pinged Phillip and asked him to come on this show because there was something which told me it was not a thought. It was just, an idea. Oh, why don't I didn't wait until the young girl was away. I asked you in time to connect with me. And we had a wonderful talk, and I immediately had the idea to invite you here for the show. So this is my takeaway. Don't be too shy in life when something is calling you, go.
So.
Margherita, yours?
Yes, I always propose face your fears and then go for what you like in your heart. Train your mind, love your life. This is something that I have practiced for a long time. And the message that you send here, Phillip, is like so wonderful because the scientific mind, let's say, needs to be there. It has to be joining the two sides of the brain, and then we can come to that central source, and that makes a person so powerful. So be sure to type in the contact information on the event page there, Phillip, if you would, and then right now this was the end of this episode, I think, and then we'll see you next week, same time.
Thank you all very much.
Yes. Okay.